For years, I let my family believe I was just a simple antique shop worker while I quietly built a multi-million-dollar jewelry authentication business. When Thanksgiving finally revealed my success, their shock turned to anger and betrayal. This is my story of breaking free from toxic family drama and learning to live authentically. My name's Emily, and for years I was just the quiet one in my family. The middle child who worked at this tiny antique shop in Portland, Oregon, quietly hustling behind the scenes while everyone else lived their loud, flashy lives. My parents, Diane and Tom, were the kind of folks who loved to show off their perfect family at neighborhood parties. My older sister Jessica, she was the golden child, always the center of attention with her fancy job in marketing and a wardrobe full of designer labels. And my younger brother? Well, he was still in college, living the carefree life with barely a worry in the world. Meanwhile, I was the disappointment, the girl stuck in a secondhand shop, scraping by on a modest paycheck. At least, that's what everyone thought. Truth was, I'd built something for myself quietly, away from their judgmental eyes. Behind the scenes, I'd started a business authenticating rare jewelry and art pieces. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid well. More than well, actually. But to them, I was just Emily, the girl who didn't make it like Jessica or live the college life like my brother. I kept it all secret because honestly, I didn't want their pity or their backhanded comments. The breaking point came during Thanksgiving. You know, the holiday where family pride and drama mix in equal measure. It all began about 2 weeks before Turkey Day. Mom called me one afternoon, her voice shaky and strained. She had been diagnosed with a herniated disc, and the thought of cooking dinner for 20 people, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, was crushing her. She was stressed, overwhelmed, and honestly, I don't think she ever expected me to offer help. But I was tired of the same old story. Burnt turkey, dry stuffing, and Mom apologizing to everyone for her cooking. Why don't I handle the food this year? I can have it catered, I suggested. Oh, honey, we can't afford catering, she said with a worried sigh. Don't worry about the cost. I've been saving up, I assured her. She sounded hesitant. Are you sure you're not taking out a loan or something? Nope, I'm good, I replied, feeling more confident than I had in a long time. I got everything set up with a high-end catering company I'd used for some business events before. They specialized in gourmet food that made you forget about your own cooking disasters. It cost more than what Mom probably thought I earned in 2 months, but whatever. It was Thanksgiving. I wanted it to be special. Thanksgiving morning was bright and calm. I was in a good mood, laptop in hand, because I had to keep an eye on a major online auction in Hong Kong. A stunning Art Nouveau necklace was up for bid, and one of my clients was interested in authenticating it if they won. It was a big deal for my business, so I was juggling work and family at the same time. The catering arrived right on time. The food looked incredible. Everything from the turkey to the sides was picture perfect. Mom was busy apologizing for not cooking herself, but honestly, everyone was enjoying the meal. Jessica, of course, had to make a rude comment about the store-bought stuffing. Really, Emily? Store-bought stuffing? Mom's was way better. That from the girl who once set off the smoke alarm trying to make toast. I just smiled, letting it slide, but my eyes rolled hard. Jessica could never resist taking digs at me, probably because she thought she was better. After dinner, I stepped away to check my laptop. The auction was heating up, and I needed to be ready in case my client won. I set up in my old bedroom, which Mom had never bothered to redecorate since my high school days. Meanwhile, Jessica's room had been renovated 3 times over. I left my authentication software open, lots of tabs with current accounts, pending contracts, and profit reports. It was work stuff, boring to anyone but me, but it was proof of the business I'd built. That's when Jessica walked in without knocking, asking to borrow my phone charger. She glanced at my laptop screen, eyes narrowing. She saw the numbers, the account balances, contracts worth hundreds of thousands, the company's quarterly profits. Jessica's face shifted through confusion, disbelief, and finally something like horror. This can't be right, she whispered. It's right, I said calmly. She looked around the dining room, where 20 people were finishing their meal, many half-drunk on expensive wine they'd mistaken for cheap stuff. Then she flipped the laptop screen around like it was some trophy to expose me. The room went silent, the kind of silence where you could hear the fancy clock Mom had gotten for Christmas ticking. My screen showed an account balance of $12. 4 million. A pending contract for $485,000, a recent transaction of $1. 2 million, and the auction company's profit report showing $4. 2 million. Jessica's face turned pale. She swayed on her feet, whispering, "She's rich. Emily's rich." Mom burst into giggles. "Come on, Jessica. Emily works at that little antique shop. This must be some kind of mistake." I stood up, smoothing out my cashmere sweater, one that cost more than their monthly mortgage. "Actually, Mom, I own one of the largest jewelry authentication companies in the country. For years, those antique shop comments have been way off. That little shop is just the front. I authenticate pieces worth millions. We have offices in 3 cities." Dad choked on his drink. Aunt Kelly dropped her fork. Uncle Dan started coughing like he was having a fit. Mom's laughter turned into something else. Her face flushed red, then purple. She stood so fast her chair tipped over. "You have millions, and you let us struggle?" she screamed. "Struggle?" I said, voice steady. "I send you $7,000 every month." Mom sat down, eyes blazing, while sitting on millions. "Your sister has student loans." And there it was. Instead of congratulations, there was outrage. Outrage that I hadn't given them more money. Jessica started crying. Real tears, surprisingly, about how she deserved to know and how I'd betrayed the family. Dad joined in, yelling about selfishness and ungratefulness. That's when I lost it. Years of being ignored, dismissed, and compared to Jessica came pouring out. "You raised me? You shipped me off to grandma's every time I sneezed. You missed every achievement, every award, every milestone because Jessica might feel left out. You never saved a penny for my college, but took out loans for her private school. And now you're mad that I built something for myself?" The next few minutes were a mess, shouting, crying, accusations flying. The fancy catering team tried to serve dessert, but looked like they wanted to disappear. I grabbed my laptop and my Hermes bag, which Mom had once called a nice replica, and walked out. Behind me, I could hear them discussing how to spend my money, Rachel's MBA, a new car for Jessica, all that. I drove home in my sensible car, a limited edition BMW. My phone blew up with messages and calls. The family group chat exploded with Jessica posting on Facebook about hidden wealth and selfish siblings. Relatives I hadn't talked to in years suddenly had strong opinions on my moral character. And that was just the start. The days after Thanksgiving were a whirlwind. I woke up every morning to my phone buzzing nonstop. Texts, calls, messages on social media. Family members I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly wanted to talk about my responsibilities now that I was rich. Jessica's posts kept stirring up drama, accusing me of hiding money from them all these years, of being selfish, and how she and Mom were struggling while I lived in luxury. It was exhausting. I didn't respond at first. I just kept working, my mind split between auction bids and dodging calls from my family. I had a big deal coming up, a rare sapphire necklace from the 1920s going under the hammer in New York next month. If I won the bid for my client, it would put my company on the map nationally. This was the break I needed to leave Portland and open my own office in Manhattan. But the family drama was relentless. Mom called every day, crying and begging me to come home, while Jessica sent passive-aggressive texts, sometimes disguised as concerned sister messages, other times outright hostile. Even Dad got involved, asking me to be reasonable and share the wealth. But I wasn't about to just hand over my hard-earned money. I finally broke my silence one afternoon, posting a long message on my personal Instagram, explaining that yes, I kept my business private, but that didn't mean I owed anyone anything. I worked hard for everything, and I wasn't a bank for anyone's entitlement. That didn't sit well with the family. Jessica called me, yelling through the phone. "You think you're better than us now? You're the same Emily we grew up with, poor, stuck, invisible. You don't get to play rich girl when you've been a nobody your whole life." I hung up. The bitterness in her voice was sad, but I knew she was lashing out because she was jealous. She never wanted me to succeed. One evening, a few days later, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. "Emily," a soft voice asked. "This is Rachel Simmons. I'm your cousin." Rachel, cousin I barely knew because she'd lived across the country in Chicago. We'd met once at a family reunion years ago, but never really connected. "I know things have been crazy lately," Rachel said. "I just wanted to tell you, I'm proud of you. What you've built is incredible, and I want to help." I was skeptical. Family didn't usually offer help without strings attached. But there was sincerity in her voice. "Thanks, Rachel. That means a lot," I said. Over the next few weeks, Rachel and I talked more. She was a financial advisor and offered to help me manage my growing wealth. We met in a coffee shop downtown, a quiet place where I could think without worrying about family drama. Rachel's support felt like a breath of fresh air. She didn't judge me for hiding my success or for how I'd handled Thanksgiving. Instead, she asked questions about my plans, my goals, and how I wanted to grow my business. With Rachel's help, I started looking into expanding my company beyond Portland. We researched markets in New York, Miami, and Los Angeles. I felt alive again, energized by the possibilities. But just when I thought I was moving forward, the family drama exploded again. One morning, I opened my email to find a letter from my parents' lawyer. Apparently, Mom and Dad had decided to contest my ownership of a piece of family property, the old house I'd grown up in. They claimed I'd never contributed to the upkeep and that the house was supposed to be a shared inheritance. I stared at the letter, disbelief washing over me. The house was in Mom and Dad's names, sure, but years ago I'd paid for major repairs: the roof, the plumbing, the foundation. I had proof, receipts, bank transfers, even emails with contractors. Still, they were trying to take it from me. I called Rachel immediately. She was furious on my behalf and promised to help me fight it. "This is just more proof they don't respect you or what you've done," she said. "They want to control everything, including your property." I spent the next few weeks gathering documents, talking to lawyers, and preparing for what felt like a battle royale with my own family. Each call with Mom or Dad ended in yelling or crying, accusations or guilt trips. Jessica was no better. She posted on social media, painting me as a greedy villain who wanted to steal from the poor parents. Some of our relatives took her side, others quietly cheered me on. I felt alone, but also more determined than ever. One night, after a particularly brutal argument with Mom, I sat on the couch, exhausted and drained. Rachel called to check in. "You okay?" she asked. "Honestly, no. It feels like everything's falling apart," I admitted. "Remember why you started all this. You wanted freedom, independence. Don't let them steal that from you." Her words stayed with me. A week later, I flew to New York for the auction. The sapphire necklace was beautiful, deep blue, flawless, with a history that stretched back to the Roaring '20s. I bid aggressively on behalf of my client, a private collector who trusted me completely. When the gavel finally dropped, the necklace was ours. It was a win, but it also marked a turning point. I realized I couldn't keep splitting my energy between family drama and my dreams. I had to set boundaries. I sent a message to my family, explaining I needed space, that I loved them but had to focus on building my future. It was met with silence. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was in control. After that trip to New York, I felt a shift inside me, like I'd finally broken free from the weight of my family's expectations. But freedom didn't come without its own challenges. When I got back home to Portland, things got complicated fast. First, there was the house situation. The legal battle dragged on longer than I expected. Mom and Dad refused to back down, and their lawyers sent a series of aggressive letters trying to paint me as ungrateful and dishonest. They claimed that because I hadn't contributed enough financially to the house, I had no claim on it. But I had receipts, bank records, even photos of the work I paid for. My lawyer assured me that the evidence was strong, but still, it was draining, emotionally and financially. What really surprised me was how some of our extended family started taking sides. I'd always thought family meant loyalty, but it turned out loyalty was pretty conditional. My Aunt Lisa, who I'd always considered an ally, started avoiding me at family events. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years suddenly started sending me passive-aggressive messages on social media, hinting that I was selfish and should give back to those who raised me. It was hard not to take it personally, but Rachel kept reminding me to focus on what mattered: my future. "You didn't ask to be born into drama," she told me once over coffee. "You worked hard. You deserve your success." Her support was my lifeline. Meanwhile, Jessica continued her social media tirades. She posted photos of better days, when we were kids playing in the backyard, captions dripping with nostalgia and bitterness. She'd tag me, hoping I'd respond. Sometimes I did, mostly to set the record straight, but mostly I ignored it. One day, I saw a new post that stopped me cold. It was a video of Mom, sitting at the kitchen table, crying and talking about how she missed the family we used to be. Jessica posted it with the caption, "Why can't Emily see what she's doing to us?" That video broke something inside me. I called Mom that night. "I miss you too," I said softly. But the conversation quickly turned to money. The money I was hiding from them. The money I owed. I tried to explain that I'd been supporting them monthly, but it wasn't enough to fix the emotional damage or erase years of feeling invisible. "Emily, we did everything for you," Mom said, voice shaking. "And this is how you repay us?" That night, I lay awake, questioning everything. Was I being selfish? Was I wrong to keep my success private? But deep down, I knew the truth. I'd spent years being the family's secret, the quiet one, with no big achievements. Now that I'd made something of myself, suddenly everyone cared. I wasn't going back to that. Not without respect. To take control, I decided to relocate my business. Portland had been my home, but the city was small and the family drama too close. Rachel suggested New York, where the art and antique market was booming, and I could be surrounded by clients who cared about my work, not my family history. So I started planning the move. I found a loft apartment in Brooklyn and started setting up a satellite office. Rachel helped me with the finances, making sure everything was in order. The move was both exciting and terrifying. Leaving Portland meant leaving the remnants of my old life behind, but it also meant cutting ties with the family that had defined me for so long. Then came Thanksgiving, the same holiday that had exploded into chaos last year. This time, I was determined to keep it simple. No fancy dinners, no expensive catering. Just me, Rachel, and a few close friends. But of course, that wasn't what the family wanted. Mom called repeatedly, begging me to come home, to keep traditions alive. Jessica sent a barrage of texts, accusing me of running away and abandoning the family. I stood firm. "No, I won't be coming," I replied. "I'm building my own traditions now." The day of Thanksgiving, I cooked a simple meal, turkey breast, mashed potatoes, green beans, and spent the evening laughing with Rachel and my friends. For the first time, I felt genuinely happy during the holiday. But the family drama wasn't done with me yet. A week later, Jessica posted a photo of Mom and Dad at the old house, with the caption, "Home is where the heart is, even when Emily won't be here." The post quickly went viral among our relatives, sparking a new round of arguments. The next day, I got a call from a reporter. Apparently, someone had leaked the family dispute to a local news station, and they wanted my side of the story. I hesitated but realized this was my chance to tell the truth, without filters, without judgment. I agreed to the interview. When the segment aired, I spoke openly about my journey, the struggles of building a business from nothing, the pain of feeling overlooked by my own family, and the importance of setting boundaries. The response was overwhelming. Messages of support flooded in from strangers who'd faced similar family conflicts. Some relatives even reached out privately, apologizing for their behavior. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was a start. Now, as I sit in my new office in Brooklyn, preparing for the next big auction, I know one thing for sure. I'm no longer defined by my family's expectations. I'm Emily, a woman who fought for her place in the world and won. After the interview aired, my life felt like it shifted on its axis. Suddenly, I wasn't just the family drama girl anymore. I was someone with a voice, a story people actually wanted to hear. The support from strangers was both comforting and strange. Messages poured in from all over the country, some sharing their own family struggles, others offering advice or just words of encouragement. It was like I had opened a door I never knew existed, and on the other side was a whole community I never expected. But with visibility came scrutiny. Not all the attention was positive. Some relatives doubled down on their resentment, accusing me of airing dirty laundry for sympathy or fame. Jessica, of course, was the loudest. She posted scathing comments online, calling me a liar, a selfish traitor to the family. It was exhausting, but I learned to let most of it roll off my back. For every negative comment, there were 10 messages from people who said, "Thank you for speaking up." Rachel was my rock through it all. She moved to New York shortly after me, and we started working more closely together. Our business was growing fast, authenticating rare antiques and jewelry, consulting for museums and private collectors. It was stressful and demanding, but also incredibly rewarding. I finally felt like I was building a future I could be proud of. The legal battle over the house finally settled a few months later. The judge ruled in my favor, recognizing the investments and improvements I had made. I kept the house, and eventually, I decided to renovate it and turn it into a boutique gallery and showroom for our business. It felt good reclaiming that space, turning it from a symbol of conflict into a place of creativity and success. Meanwhile, Mom and Dad were strangely quiet. They stopped calling as often, and I heard from mutual family members that they were struggling to adjust. Mom's health had worsened, and Dad seemed resigned to the loss of control he once had over me. Jessica kept up her social media campaign, but it started losing steam. Her posts became more bitter, and some family members even started distancing themselves from her. One day, out of the blue, I got a message from Grandma Marie. She had always been the wisest and kindest person in the family. She said she missed me and wanted to visit. I was hesitant at first, but eventually I agreed. When Grandma arrived, it was like a breath of fresh air. She didn't judge or take sides. Instead, she listened, offered advice, and reminded me that family doesn't always look perfect. It's messy, complicated, and sometimes painful. But love, real love, should never hurt like this. Grandma encouraged me to keep setting boundaries and to focus on the people who actually supported me. She said, "You don't owe anyone your happiness, Emily. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is to let go." That visit was healing. Grandma stayed for a few weeks, helping me organize a new collection for the gallery and just being a comforting presence. It made me realize how much I'd been missing not having that unconditional support. Around that time, a surprising opportunity came my way. A prestigious museum in Manhattan reached out, interested in having me authenticate and curate a special exhibit of early 20th century jewelry. It was a huge deal, one that could elevate our business to a whole new level. I accepted, and the project consumed the next few months of my life. Traveling between Brooklyn, Manhattan, and even a few international trips, I was busier than ever. Rachel and I worked around the clock, and the hard work paid off. The exhibit was a hit, praised for its meticulous curation and the rare pieces we authenticated. With success came confidence. I started speaking at industry conferences, sharing my story, not just about antiques, but about resilience and reclaiming your narrative. I wanted others to know they weren't alone, that they could rise above family drama or toxic expectations. Still, the past occasionally crept in. Jessica once showed up unexpectedly at the gallery, demanding a private meeting. It was awkward and tense. She accused me of stealing family money and betraying our heritage. I calmly explained the truth about my financial support and legal battles. She left frustrated and unresolved. That incident confirmed to me that no matter how much I succeeded, some wounds run too deep. But it also reminded me why I needed to keep boundaries firm. Protecting my peace was more important than proving myself to anyone who refused to see me clearly. Today, my life is different. I have a thriving business, a close circle of friends, and Rachel by my side. We've built something that's ours, free from judgment or expectation. I still communicate with Grandma Marie, who remains my greatest source of wisdom and love. The family drama? It's mostly behind me now. Mom and Dad eventually stopped trying to reach me, and Jessica's social media rants faded into the background. I don't know if we'll ever fully reconcile, but I'm okay with that. I've learned that family isn't always about blood. It's about who shows up, who supports you, and who loves you without conditions. This journey taught me the hard way how important it is to live authentically, to set limits, and to honor your own worth. I'm proud of how far I've come, and I'm excited for what the future holds. After the museum exhibit, things started to settle into a new rhythm. The buzz from the event brought in more clients, and Rachel and I expanded our team, hiring experts in appraisal, restoration, and authentication. The gallery became a community hub for collectors and enthusiasts, a place where history came alive through the stories behind every piece. But success didn't erase the scars from my past. Occasionally, old family wounds flared up, especially when someone tried to stir the pot online or in person. I learned to respond with grace or sometimes just silence. There was no winning a battle of bitterness. Only peace came from letting go. One of the most surprising turns was reconnecting with some cousins who had stayed out of the drama. They reached out quietly, wanting to rebuild bridges. Slowly, we started having honest conversations, sharing memories, and even supporting each other's lives. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Grandma Marie continued to be my anchor. She visited often, sometimes bringing old family albums or heirlooms to examine. She reminded me that legacy isn't just about money or possessions. It's about the values you pass down, the kindness you show, and the strength you carry. In a way, I realized my story was no longer just about family conflict or financial success. It was about transformation, how I moved from feeling invisible and underestimated to owning my truth and thriving, how I learned to stand firm in my worth, even when the people who should have loved me unconditionally failed to see it. Rachel and I started hosting workshops for young women interested in antiques and entrepreneurship. We wanted to create opportunities for others to build their own paths, just like we had. It felt like paying forward the lessons we'd learned. One quiet evening, I found myself reflecting on the Thanksgiving that changed everything. I remembered the tension, the shock, the chaos, but also the turning point, when I stopped hiding, stopped apologizing for who I was, and finally chose to live on my own terms. Life isn't perfect, and family can be complicated. But I've learned that the most important family you build is the one you choose. Those who lift you up, celebrate your wins, and respect your boundaries. So, to anyone out there feeling trapped or undervalued, know this: your story matters. Your dreams are valid. And sometimes, the hardest battles lead to the most beautiful victories. Thanks for listening to my journey. I hope it inspires you to find your own strength and live authentically. And remember, sometimes, breaking free is the bravest thing you can do.
Thanks for watching. If you liked the story, hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more crazy twists. See you in the next one.